This video is only part of an unpaid, unbiased, in-depth review from an average rider's perspective, so check out the rest in the link below at thegoodride.com. If this video helps, please consider subscribing and buying through our links, or even better, become a member on YouTube or Patreon. You'll get exclusive access to video review shorts as we test gear, along with a lot of other perks. So thanks for watching, and I hope this review helps. Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and while my riding might be average, my snowboard memory is strong. And this is the Nidecker Alpha APX. Next to it is the regular Alpha. And I rode this primarily with Burton Kendos and Union Atlas, but I did put the K-On Plus from Nidecker and the Supramatic on these to give those a try as well. I got this in a pretty decent amount of conditions, not as much as I did with the Alpha because I had that a lot longer, but I just recently got this and compared it to the Alpha in some decent powder to some better powder to some good groomers and what have you. Really got a good taste for this board and how it compares to the Alpha next to it. To give you a short summary, this is definitely a poppier, more dynamic flex. It doesn't feel too much lighter, but it definitely has a faster base, and it has this very poppy, dynamic, lively personality that's great when the conditions are good, but not as good as the Alpha when the conditions are mediocre to starting to turn into messy and uneven. It's got some taper, but not a lot. It has a very kind of tapered, all mountain kind of feel, and it's very good for those looking for a one-board quiver that favor directional riding a little more, but still want something closer to those non-tapered, double-ender kind of all mountain to mountain freestyle rides that you see out there. And if you want a more dynamic version of the Alpha at the expense of shock absorption and uneven conditions, this could definitely work for you. Now, when it comes to sizing, both these 58s felt great. They were just right on point boot-wise for me. It's a little wide. It's almost 26 centimeter waist, but with that 4 mil of taper and just this easy turning side cut, it worked really well for my specs. The only thing is I'm a little too heavy for this board, and you don't want to be too heavy for an ultralight, an APX, a plus kind of model, because you can make it buck and bounce more than a lighter rider would. Same with the Alpha. I felt like it was just a little off for me weight-wise, but very good for me boot-wise. I'd keep it 10 and under with this. You might be able to go a little wider, but weight-wise, I'm 185 to 190. You probably want to be 170 or below for these boards. I think that's where they'll shine, and especially for this one, this likes even a lighter rider. 150, 160, similar specs to me. Everything else is the same. Boot-wise, height-wise, you're going to be fine. Now, when it comes to the shape, like I said, there's 4 mil of taper. That's not a ton. Sometimes with some boards you really feel that, but with this you don't. And I like that it feels kind of a little between the feet to back. You don't really want to drive too hard off that front foot because you engage that spoon tech in the nose, and it can feel a little washy. But after a little while, I started getting used to that and learned how to weight the edges without getting that nose to wash, and it was fun. Even riding switch, I wasn't really washing out too much on the tail unless I got off my game. And so it has a very kind of like a little more directional than most all mountain boards, but a lot less directional than most freeride boards. So it kind of sits in that middle ground area where, like I said before, it's kind of like tapered all mountain. And it has a pretty good feeling between the feet, one footing and flat basing with this camber profile that is mostly camber. There's a little bit of early rise before the tail, a little bit more before the nose going into spoon. Even though it can be a little washy, it has a pretty consistent feel in all conditions, and it's okay to make skidded turns with. I thought the Alpha was a touch easier just because of that softer flex, but both of them could handle, especially the APX, could handle a strong intermediate and up. I think it's fine for just about most ability levels, and a hell of a lot easier than what I rode when I learned in the full camber days. And when it comes to edge hold, the grip is good. It's not amazing. I think both grip pretty well and help this board hold in all conditions as well as feel stable, but it's not great for those super hard days. If the conditions are good, this will grip just as well as the Alpha, if not better. But if the conditions are uneven, I felt like it bucked me out of my line and I lost my edge more with the APX than I did the Alpha. Same run, same conditions. Let's talk flex here. Got a stiffer flex than the regular Alpha. Definitely feel more happening right here. And when you press in and let go, I feel more spring out of the turn. I felt that on snow and under pretty light. Now, if you play around with the spoon nose, definitely softer than the middle and softer than the tail. The tail's kind of right there at the middle, a touch softer. And overall, there's just a very dynamic poppy flex to this guy. Now let's just do a quick comparison to the regular Alpha. It definitely has an easier flex overall. Both I had no problem buttering. Both were very easy to access pop. I would have thought the APX would be a little more work to access that pop, but instead on snow, that stiffer flex is still super easy to access and it just pops harder. It's super easy to ollie and you just want to get air with the APX. Not that the Alpha's a slouch either. It's a very poppy dynamic board. Buttering with both of them is not easy off the nose because that spoon nose just slides out either way. So like if you like doing a tripod or playing around with nose butters and everything other than deep powder, this won't be that easy. But it butters off the tail really easy. And when it comes to just how this flex handles all types of conditions, I just found myself bucking and bouncing around a lot more in hard micro bumpy snow and messy uneven snow. But in good conditions, this just really shined over the regular Alpha. But I'd get off a run with the APX and I was bucked and bounced around and I kept getting off my game, losing my edge and bouncing out of a line. And then I did the exact same run with the Alpha and versus the APX, and all of a sudden everything worked. Everything I tried worked. So it was interesting to see the two flex personalities. So you get more pop with the APX, but you can ride in less than ideal conditions. You basically all day Saturdays, you can ride with the Alpha more. Both don't send chatter up into my joints, and this does very well for like a plus model, aka an APX, but it's still a little more bucky and bouncy than the Alpha. Now, when it comes to speed, both are pretty decent for speed, especially for an APX, a plus model, but I liked the dampness. Even though this is softer, it just felt like it didn't chatter as much than the APX, but both have decent mountain speed. Not amazing, but far from being bad. The APX has better base glide, and I really liked the way this kept its speed over the Alpha, but it's pretty close. The APX has definitely got a little more glide though. Now, when it comes to turn initiation, both same side cut, same shape, same everything, same camber profile, just different flex. Yeah, the turn initiation is quick with both of these, and I think that little bit of taper there helps me turn a slightly wider waist width than I would normally ride for size 9s better. But I would say the APX has a little more pop edge to edge, doing quick turns. And then when you engage this into a harder turn, you really commit to that edge, it has more spring out of the turn with the APX than it does the regular Alpha in good conditions. And the minute the conditions are starting to turn, I'd rather be on the regular Alpha and not the Alpha APX. But both have a very balanced side cut radius that seems to just handle any kind of turn you want to make, like a true all mountain board does. They just don't shine in any one place and just allow you to do a little bit of everything. So if you're into a circle carve, this will circle carve with a little effort. Cross the groomer carves are fine, but if you want to do some moderate speed down the line, kind of drivey turns, this can do that as well. When it comes to powder, I set this all the way back, just like the Alpha. Took them both out with the same bindings on the same day. I'd take one run, switch, then take the other one out. And in clean conditions, just that's the ongoing theme with this, the APX was amazing because it just popped over things. Like, I just felt like my airs were better, and my airs aren't good to start with, so I need everything I can get. And this just popped so well. And I just felt like it carried its speed better. So if you're riding mostly clean, pristine powder, you definitely want the APX over the Alpha. But the Alpha kept its speed well enough and still popped really well too. Neither are amazing when it comes to directional float. The betas are just better. I didn't get to try the beta APX, but if I did, I would have preferred it over the Alpha APX and powder. But as far as just like a one board quiver kind of board, this does better than most all mountain boards. Not quite as good as most free ride boards, but it's good. It's very competent. I love the way the spoon nose turned in powder. It didn't really seem to give me any extra float in comparison to similar boards, but I just love the turning experience. It just feels so good. Same in softer snow. It's just a better roll edge to edge, and it just feels smoother and starts to come alive and become a little more surfy, even though this still feels pretty centered and not that set back, which I consider more surfy than maybe a turny nose. When it comes to switch, this is very doable either way. I really like the way this turned, and sometimes the nose, the spoon nose, is definitely way more pronounced, and the tail doesn't seem to have any or just a little spoon nose. So I felt like the tail could sometimes wash, but once I get used to how to weight the board, kind of drive more front foot off when I'm riding switch, it was fine. This would be decent in the pipe, I think. I didn't take it there, and I didn't want to jib with this. Not my kind of board to jib with, and I'm not really jibbing these days, so too old and broken. So overall, I think this is a very fun board, and if you mainly ride in good conditions or you're a lot lighter than me, I think you might really enjoy the Alpha APX because there is just such a more dynamic flex personality to this board in comparison to the already dynamic Alpha, and you get a faster base too. So it really depends on you. Giving advice on YouTube is very difficult because I need a lot of info from you to actually help. So if you want real advice, fill out the Me Harmony profile in the link below so I can help you properly.